In this video, I reviewed the remaining pages on Geary.co that haven't been covered. I'll start with 2 abandoned pages that shouldn't be indexed. They were left unfinished or forgotten, like this Lorem Ipsum Media Kit page from 2 videos back. Indexing these low quality pages wastes crop budget and hurts your site's overall quality, which isn't a smart technical SEO strategy. So let's kick things off with the products page. The first thing you notice is that the logo overlaps with the page title. There are also some padding issues that only become apparent when you view the page on different screen sizes. Let's look at the page on Horizontal Responsive. So as you can see, all the content not within the header and footer have padding issues. Content is touching the edge of the screen. This is mostly because of Kevin's misunderstanding of the HTML section element. According to Kevin, a section is an element that has an inner div centered inside it, and the section needs to have padding. Let's go back. Now, because the div and main are not within a section, they don't have padding. If we look at here, the div has no padding, the main has no padding. But if we look at the section in the footer, it has padding. This is this footer, this section, it has padding. And for this div, I guess the margin top is not enough. Maybe let's give it 120 and see what happens. Probably maybe we'll get some more space. Yes, we get some more space. Anyway, my videos on section will shed more light on the wrong narrative pushed by Kevin's article that talks about the section elements. So let's next let's look at the links that are not so obvious. That's the inner circle roadmap, consulting, and inner circle. They share the same color as the page title and other text. That's the get my emails and the page building 101 with no visual change on hover. When I hover, there's no visual change that happens. This violates WCAG success criterion 141 use of color, which requires that color is not the only way to convey information. Users with color vision deficiencies may not recognize these as links. According to WCAG failures F73, the links fail because they are links that are not visually evident without color vision. The WCAG General Technique G183 recommends a contrast ratio of at least 3:1 with surrounding text and additional visual cues on hover. In our case, the links have a contrast ratio of less than 3:1 with surrounding text, and they lack any underline or indicator on hover. The links are white, FFF, FFF, and surrounding text are gray, B3, B3, B3. What we end up with is a ratio of 2.09:1, which is less than 3. Enhancing their visual distinction will not only meet WCAG guidelines, but also improve the user experience. So, still on the matter of these links, even though I can click these links with a mouse or tap on mobile, they aren't reachable using the tab key on keyboard. So let's see. If I try to see, I go down to the get my emails inputs. If I go back up, so I cannot reach the links. This is a failure of the SC211 keyboard. The intent of this success criterion is to ensure that wherever possible, content can be operated through a keyboard or keyboard interface. And because the links are not reachable, they are removed from the logical focus order, which makes navigating the page unpredictable. This is also a failure of SC243 focus order. Luckily, both can be fixed by removing the negative tab index added to the links, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So if we look here, where is it? I think it's here. Yes. So you can see that tab index was added. On this page, I already removed tab index. You don't have any tab index here. So if I was to tab here, we're going to be able to reach our links. Do not use tab index attributes if you don't know what you are doing, right? So while we're still on this particular links again, we're going to talk about unnecessary use of ARIA. If we look at, let's take the first one, inner circle roadmap. And we come down here, you can see the contents has been struck out and it says inner circle roadmap. But here an area label was added and it says read more about inner circle roadmap. So usually when native HTML is sufficient, there's no need to use ARIA. The link text already provides accessible names, so adding an ARIA label is unnecessary and may confuse sighted screen reader users and even voice-controlled devices when the visual label differs from the accessible name. So let's see what it sounds like.
Speech mode talk. Tab. Read more about consulting link heading level 3.
So it says read more about consulting. Let's see what it says for the inner circle.
Tab. Read more about inner circle visited link heading level 3.
Read more about the inner circle. So the ARIA label differs from the actual label. So what we're having here is the label and accessible name are different. Now, when the accessible name differs from the visual label, it's best practice to start the accessible name with the visual label. This approach prevents activation difficulties for voice users, reduces cognitive load for screen reader users, and overall results in better user experience. So instead of, for example, this one that says...
Not specified. Speech mode off.
For example, this one that says read more about inner circle roadmap. Since the visual label starts with inner circle roadmap, it should have just been inner circle roadmap, read more. So starting with what is visual. Now, one thing to note is in cases where the label and accessible name do not match, for example, if a button's visible text is send, but its error label is submit. So by saying click send with voice activated technologies, you will not be able to activate the button. The user must see the entire error label to activate it, which will be cumbersome and prone to error since it's not going to be evident that the error label is saying submit and the visual label says send. So in this case, not matching error labels with visual labels can result in failure 253, which is a label in name, which requires that the accessible name of an element contains the text of its visual label. So I think we're done with this particular page. Let's move to the next one. Shop page. Now, this is another page that has no business being indexed, and it also seems this has padding and margin overlap issues. But we've already looked at that. And in this case, we have two UI controls overlapping one another. So the first one here, we have the logo link overlapping a button here called latest here, and overlapping the shop text, that is the title. And here again, we have an overlap between this inner circle link, CTA link, and the search form. So let's see what WCAG failures we're going to get from this. The first one is going to be obscured focus. When a UI control is focused, it should at least be partially visible for it to pass WCAG SC 2.4.11. That's 2411. Focus not obscured minimum. The goal is to keep the focused item visible. People who can't use a mouse need to see what has keyboard focus. So if we... So far, the latest button is partially obscured, which means there's no problem. It passes 2411. And for this search form too. But what happens when I zoom? No. What happens when I zoom to about 125, 150, 175? So here what you will see is the menu, hamburger menu, and the profile button are both obscured. So this is a failure of 2411. If we were to consider 2412, which is focus not obscured enhanced, which is a level AAA, this one does not allow for any part of a focus item to be obscured. And in that case, even the partially obscured latest button would fail. 2412. Now, next is inability to reach controls. When I try to click the search form, nothing happens. Or the latest button, if I try to get to it, I'm having issues getting to it. Let me see. I cannot reach it. Now, this seems to be a pointer failure, and it's a little bit tricky because SC211 keyboard ensures all functionality is operable with keyboard but doesn't require mouse or touch. I'm not aware of any success criteria that states all functionality must be operable by all users, whether they use a keyboard, mouse, or touch. But there's definitely a barrier here because not everyone navigates with a keyboard. A sighted mouse or touch user won't be able to interact with the obstructed elements. If you're on a phone, you probably won't be able to hit the latest button or even the search form. So this is what it will look like on a phone. So this latest button, you're not going to be able to reach it. But even though there is a barrier, like I said, I'm not sure of any success criteria that specifically says you must be able to use mouse or tap to reach a control. Probably I've forgotten. Now, regardless whether it's a WCAG fail or not, accessibility isn't just about compliance. It's about making sure everyone can use your website no matter how they navigate. And still on this latest button, let me tap to it. Now, if I was to press enter, I'm going to be able to activate it. But if I was to try to tap to it, it disappears. And this would seem like a failure of SC2.1.1, which is a keyboard, which says all UI control must be operable with keyboard. But one funny thing is, let's go back. If I was to use arrow keys, I'll be able to navigate. Now I'm actually navigating, even though it's not obvious. Let's on
Speech mode talk.
So listen carefully.
Down arrow. Menu, press the arrow keys, then enter to make a selection. Button. Down arrow. Menu item latest. Down arrow. Menu item oldest.
The next one is say alphabetical A to Z.
Down arrow. Menu item alphabetical AZ.
Next one alphabetical Z to A.
Down arrow. Menu item alphabetical Z8.
Okay. So we can navigate using the arrow keys, but we can't navigate using tab. But there's another problem we're having now. There's no focus indicator, or it seems to be very low. Now, this would fail success criteria 2.4.7 focus visible. When you hover, you're actually going to see what we're expecting. So this is what I was expecting if I was navigating with my up and down arrow.
Up arrow. Menu item alphabetical AZ. Up arrow. Menu item oldest.
And latest.
Up arrow. Menu item latest.
So there's that 247. Now, similar to what we saw on the previous page, there's a pointless use of ARIA for this latest button. I think I have it open here. When we look, you're going to see it has an area label ordered by latest.
Elements panel property page. DOM tree. Speech mode off.
The content latest has been struck out and an area label was given to it. So we've already seen this particular issue. Let me see, is there anything else on this particular page? Okay, seems there's no main landmark. But anyway, this is not a WCAG fail. So our next page is Linktree page. Now for this particular page, we're going to have two fails that are going to be as regards to zooming. So see what happens when I zoom. The text and the logo overlap. So our first failure is going to be a failure of SC1410, which is reflow. And this criterion ensures that content can be presented without loss of functionality or even overlapping when zoomed to a width of, I think, 320 CSS pixels, which is equivalent to 400% zoom. That's now, even though we're not having the overlap at 400% zoom, and it occurs at what, 125, this indicates that the layout does not properly adapt to intermediate zoom levels, which disrupts usability and fails this criterion. Then next, I think we are going to have a resized text issue. That's 144 resized text. Now this criterion requires that text can be resized up to 200% without assistive technology and without loss of content or functionality. Now, if the logo is overlapping content at 200 and 125% here, it demonstrates a failure in handling text resized properly, because resizing text properly, I'm going to have issues reading what you have here. So this is probably going to fail 144. Then, if we look at here, navigation, when you have multiple types of the same landmark, each one should be named. This navigation is named legal, which is most likely in the footer. Yes, but this navigation is not named. So this fails best practice, but not accessibility. Then the next thing is our focus. So look, I can barely see anything. The focus is partially visible because a custom focus ring was created that turns out to be hard to see. There's a failure dedicated to people that remove defaults and end up failing like this. It is the WCAG failure 78, which is a failure of success criterion 247, due to styling element outlines and borders in a way that removes or renders non-visible the visual focus indicator. So when you knowingly make focus in a way that it's not visible, this failure is for you, F78. And one thing again, focus color should not be the same or very similar to CTA link color. Here we have a failure because of that. There are similarities. Now, if you don't know what you are doing, leave the defaults when it comes to focus and you don't play with it. Then what else do we have on this page? Okay, these icons. The icons are too small and make it difficult for sighted users to understand the purpose of the links. We could have possible WCAG failures here. Now, we could have probably maybe 1411, which is non-text contrast. And why this would fail is because if the inline SVG social icons are too small, they do not provide sufficient visual affordance for sighted users. Then let me see, let's resize. Nothing even happens when you resize. So this could actually even fail 144. Because while the icons are not text, the standard for zooming still applies. If users zoom in, for example, 200%, and the icons remain too small or do not scale properly, it creates an accessibility barrier. And probably we could have even link purpose fail. And that's because if the social icons are too small, which they are, to be visually recognized, sighted users may not even understand the purpose of these links. I can't tell the purpose of these links. I didn't have my assistive technology on. So let's put it on.
Speech mode talk. Tab. Join tab. 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 Frames link. Tab. Digital gravy link. Tab. Follow me on Facebook link.
Follow me on Facebook.
Tab. Follow me on Twitter link.
Follow me on Twitter.
Tab. Follow me on LinkedIn link.
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Speech mode off.
So there's that. I think we're done with this page. Next is the affiliate page. So here you can even see the header is overlapping content. There's nothing to see here. And this text seems to be a little (2.67). So the text fails contrast minimum. I think I'll just ignore contrast failures going forward to save time. We've already established it's Kevin's kryptonite. Shark couldn't shoot. Kevin can't pass contrast minimum. Kryptonite is kryptonite. So I think You can just even skip this page and move to the next one. This is care plan calculator. So again, here we have the logo link is partially covered. Let's zoom in and out and see what happens. Okay. At 125, 110. So at about 125% zoom, let's see, is it clickable? Okay, it remains clickable and focusable. But yet the text becomes unreadable. This fails SC144 resize text, because even if the logo remains functional, users with low vision who rely on zooming may not be able to read the text properly due to the overlap. Their inability to read text creates a poor user experience for visually impaired users, even if they can still interact with the link. So I think then we move to the next one. Again, we can see logo link overlays text. What does the text say? Free resource. And this is most likely going to be a failure of 1410 reflow and 144 resize text. We've already seen this, so there is no need for. And we have an iframe. We all know that Kevin has never made an iframe that was accessible. So we've seen that in our previous video. What I'll just do here is, if you come to iframe, you are going to see all the ways to name an iframe. You can use area label by area label, and you can use title, which is the famous way to go about it. Now, depending on the amount of UI controls you have inside an iframe can be focusable itself. Then there are instances where you just focus directly into the UI inside the iframe. No need to put focus on the iframe, but that's neither here nor there. Let's just keep it moving. So this iframe is going to fail 412 name role value because it does not have a name. Let me see, is there anything else again on this page I want to talk about? Okay, right. So here it says, if you read here, it says watch the video above for a walkthrough of how to use the table calculator and then click the button below to get started. So it's talking about this particular one. I know there's a WCAG success criteria that talks about location, but let's not even worry about that for now. It calls this a button, but this is not a button. This is a link.
Speech mode talk. Tab. Skip to footer. Tab.
Come
tab.
on.
Volume. Use up slot. Tab. Tab. Picture in picture button. Shift plus tab. Open the file visited link.
Open the file visited link.
Tab. Join 1,500 plus other agency owners and free. Shift plus tab. Open the file visited link.
Open the file visited link. So
note, when I mention the monthly
it's saying to click
cost, speech mode on demand.
Button, but it's not a button. It's a link styled like a CTA button, and this is very common. You know, people call links buttons because they are styled like buttons, but they are just CTAs. Another thing is unclear link purpose. This thing says open the file. This link says open the file. But this is the thing. If we were to click this, it will probably take us to another website. Let me click it. It's taking me to Airtable. But the link just says open the file. It does not really tell us if we are going to remain on the same website, if we are going to go to another website. And even the text surrounding it does not make it clear whether we are going to be on the same page or another page. So this could fail 244, which is link purpose in context, because it's not clear that we are going to a whole different website. Link in context, link purpose 244 requires that link purpose to be clear from the link text alone or in context. If the surrounding text or UI does not indicate that, here we have open the file, takes the user to an external website. Users might assume the file opens directly on the same site. This is especially important for users with cognitive disabilities or those relying on screen readers who may not expect a site change. So I think we are done with all these pages. The next one is, what do we have here? Right. Okay, for this one, I want to talk about this card component we have here. if you notice, if I tab, I'm moving between the titles. So all these categories are not reachable. I can't click them, I can't get to them. So it's actually very pointless card design. Why put categories you cannot get? So that's the first one. Then next, we have these same cards, but in this instance, I can get to the categories. So I get to the title, the next one, web design, web development, understanding. So we have two similar designs, but one we can't get to the category, one we can get to the category. Which honestly, if you ask me, I don't know why they have two similar designs doing about two different things. Then next, we're going to come to the same card here. So this is for the categories. This previous one was for individual blog posts, but this is for category pages. Here we are in the web development category. So if I was to tab, what happens? It goes up to development. If I tab, it goes to the title, then it goes up. What we're seeing here is we're having sequence issue. So the sequence is wrong, and this is a WCAG failure. And concerning categories again, I mean, who still in 2025 has uncategorized on their WordPress websites? This is very, very bad. Next we have, okay, this is from a photo section was added. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't feel heading, but I think yes. So this first section has the H1, it has a heading inside, which is okay, but this second one doesn't have a heading. And anybody that knows the best practice for HTML sections is to have a heading inside the section. This one doesn't have. Then let's look at one of these images. Okay, I think I opened the pond here. Where? No, okay, let's open it here. And this image looks a little bit blurred. Okay, let's analyze this photo. And let's see why does it appear blurred or out of focus. Now, number one, there could be possible camera movement during 30-second exposure because the shutter speed is 30s. Now, a 30-second shutter speed requires a perfectly steady tripod. Even minor vibrations, for example, wind, pressing the shutter button, unstable ground, any of these can introduce blur. So here you use, if that's your issue, use the remote shutter release or the camera's timer to prevent vibrations when pressing the button. And next is diffraction at, you have an aperture f16. You can have diffraction at f16, which softens the image. At f16, diffraction reduces sharpness. While small apertures increase depth of field, going beyond f11 or f13 on many lenses causes image softening. So probably maybe use f8 or f11 instead would provide better sharpness without diffraction. Then the major issue, which is the fog. Fog reduces contrast and apparent sharpness. Now, we said 30-second exposure doesn't prevent the softening effect of fog, which scatters light and reduces clarity. What you do is in post-processing, you use dehaze, clarity, and contrast adjustments, and that should help with this. And what again? Probably be the autofocus struggled in low light, because when you have low light and fog, autofocus sometimes struggles. Now, if autofocus was used, it might have locked onto the wrong area, especially with fog. And if that was the case, you just use manual focus and focus peaking to ensure accuracy. So, to just summarize why this was probably an amateur shot, incorrect aperture choice, which was f16, and diffraction issues, long exposure without ensuring stability, autofocus challenges in fog not considered, And I think there's that. Is there anything else to see in our circle? Okay, no, I think I'm done. So I think we'll just pause, or we'll just stop this audit here, and probably maybe I have one more left for Geary.co before I move to another website. So let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.